Welcome, truth seekers. Imagine a day when the earth shakes, the skies turn red, and an unstoppable force bursts forth like a flood. The nations of the world look on in horror, powerless to resist. From behind barriers sealed for centuries, two ancient tribes, Gog and Magog, surge forward, numbering in the millions, sweeping across cities, mountains, and seas. Prophets warned about this moment. Scriptures described it in chilling detail. And now, it's time to uncover the truth. Who are they? Where have they been hiding? And what really happens in their last battle? Grab your coffee and sit tight, because this is a story the world was never prepared to face. Welcome to Unleash Facts, the place where history secrets, unsolved mysteries, and mind-blowing truths come to light. Long before modern maps were drawn, long before nations carved borders, there was a warning passed down through generations. In both Islamic and biblical traditions, Gog and Magog, known in Arabic as Ya'juj and Ma'juj, were not mere tribes, but vast human nations of staggering numbers. They were said to be so numerous that when they drink from a river, it dries up before the last of them arrives. Their strength was not in advanced weapons, but in sheer magnitude and ferocity. According to Islamic accounts, their existence stretches back to the time of Dhul-Qarnayn, a mighty ruler described in the Qur'an. He traveled to the far reaches of the earth until he came upon a valley between two massive mountains. There, the local people pleaded for protection from these relentless invaders, for whenever Gog and Magog broke through, they left nothing but ruin in their wake. Dhul-Qarnayn agreed, but not by building a wall of stone or wood. Instead, he ordered the forging of a colossal barrier made from iron and molten copper, so strong that neither brute force nor fire could breach it. For centuries, that barrier held, trapping Gog and Magog away from the rest of humanity. Yet the prophecy was clear, would not hold forever. Every day, it said, Gog and Magog chip away at that barrier, only to find it restored the next morning. But when the appointed time comes, their efforts will finally succeed, and their release will mark one of the final signs before the day of judgment. The question is, where exactly is this barrier? And are there clues in our world today that point to its location? Before we answer this question, we need to step back thousands of years to the days right after the Great Flood. According to ancient accounts, humanity's survival began with the three sons of Prophet Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Islamic tradition, as echoed in historical writings, tells us that Gog and Magog are from the descendants of Japheth, the same lineage from which many northern and eastern tribes would emerge. This connection is important, not just for understanding their identity, but for tracing their migrations across the early world. Japheth's descendants were known to spread far into the cold, vast lands of the north, beyond the familiar empires of the ancient Near East. Over centuries, some of these tribes became feared for their numbers and their unyielding nature. Gog and Magog, according to the prophetic narrative, were the most formidable among them, wild, uncontrollable, and hostile to all who crossed their path. Now, this brings us back to the barrier. Where was it built? Scholars and explorers have searched for centuries. Some point to the Caucasus Mountains, specifically a pass once guarded by what is now called the Derwent Wall in modern-day Russia. Others look toward Central Asia, where massive fortifications like the Great Wall of China hint at an ancient fear of northern invaders. Islamic historians such as Al-Tabari and Ibn Kathir suggest a location between two high mountain ranges in a remote, almost unreachable region, possibly somewhere in the lands we now know as between Kazakhstan and Mongolia. The exact spot remains uncertain, shrouded in mystery. But one thing is clear, it was built in a place so far from civilization that for centuries, no one could even approach it without extraordinary effort. And yet, prophecy tells us that one day, the barrier will be breached. When the appointed hour arrives, the earth itself will bear witness to their return. The massive wall of iron and copper, which has stood untouched for centuries, will finally give way, not because its strength is faded, but because divine will decrees it is time. Their release is not the work of ordinary hands. It is part of a chain of events foretold in the end-time prophecies. Imagine a rumble deep beneath the mountains, metal straining and rocks collapsing, as if the very earth is exhaling after holding its breath for millennia. The sound will carry across the empty wilderness, followed by an unsettling silence, then the roar of millions. Gog and Magog will spill out like a human flood, an unstoppable tide that stretches beyond the horizon. Their numbers will be beyond comprehension. Ancient narrations describe them as swarming in such vast multitudes that when the first wave passes through a region, nothing living remains. Fields are stripped bare, rivers run dry, and entire cities are emptied in a matter of hours. Their hunger for domination will not be political. It will be primal, raw, and absolute. They will sweep across the world's landscapes, moving with a speed that defies logic. Nations will attempt to resist, but modern armies will find themselves overwhelmed, not by superior weaponry, but by sheer human mass. Borders will mean nothing, diplomacy will fail, and the strongest fortresses will crumble under the weight of their advance. And yet, their path of destruction will not go unchecked. Prophecy says their march will continue until they reach a place where even their numbers can go no further. But where exactly does their unstoppable journey lead, and what force will finally bring it to an end? As Gog and Magog surge across the earth, fear will grip every nation. The strongest armies will collapse, their weapons proving useless against the relentless tide. Borders will vanish under their feet, and even the most fortified cities will fall within hours. Humanity will retreat in desperation, seeking any refuge that remains. In Islamic tradition, this is the moment when Prophet Isa Jesus, peace be upon him, will be present among the believers, leading them not into battle, but into survival. Alongside him will be the Mahdi, guiding the faithful away from the carnage. The believers will be driven to high places, fortified only by their unity and faith, as the enemy sweeps through the lowlands unchecked. Gog and Magog will reach the great waters, drinking entire lakes until nothing remains but cracked earth. They will boast in their arrogance, claiming even the heavens could not stop them. For a brief moment, it will seem that nothing can halt their advance, that all of human civilization is seconds away from extinction. But then, the prophecy turns. At a time when no human power can intervene, divine command will descend. Gog and Magog will be struck by a sudden, invisible calamity described in the traditions as a worm or disease that enters their necks, felling them where they stand. In an instant, the unstoppable tide will become a silent field of lifeless bodies stretching as far as the eye can see. Their defeat will not come from human courage or military might, but from the one who allowed their rise in the first place. The earth will fall into an eerie stillness, the air heavy with the scent of their vast numbers. And yet, even in death, their presence will pose a challenge the world has never faced. How will humanity deal with the aftermath of their destruction, and what happens in the world that follows? The world will not return to peace immediately after Gog and Magog fall. Their bodies, countless beyond measure, will cover the land. The stench will be unbearable, forcing the believers to call upon Allah for relief. According to the narrations, birds of enormous size will be sent to carry their remains away, clearing the land for life to continue. Even then, the scars they leave will run deep, not only in the earth, but in the memory of those who survived. Many scholars and thinkers speculate that this event could unfold in a world very different from ours today. Some suggest it may follow a Great World War III, an age when nuclear fire and advanced technology destroy themselves, leaving humanity with no modern weapons. In such a world, the nations would face Gog and Magog, not with drones or missiles, but with nothing more than walls, barricades, and whatever crude defenses remain. the prophecy's emphasis on human helplessness would take on a new, chilling clarity. In that future, the lesson would be undeniable. No matter how powerful humanity becomes, there will come a time when human strength, intelligence, and invention are stripped away, and survival depends entirely on divine protection. When the dust settles, the world will enter its final chapters. The balance of power will be forever changed, and the signs leading to the last day will continue, one after the other, until the moment no one can escape. So the question remains, are Gog and Magog already behind their barrier, waiting for the appointed hour? Or is the world itself unknowingly preparing the stage for their release? To understand this prophecy, we don't rely on legends whispered in the dark. The core of the Gog and Magog narrative comes from the Qur'an, specifically Surah Al-Kahf, which records the mission of Dhul-Qarnayn and the construction of the Great Barrier. It is expanded by the authentic sayings of the Prophet Muhammad, preserved in collections such as Sahih Muslim, which detail their eventual release as one of the major signs of the last day. Biblical accounts, particularly in the books of Ezekiel and Revelation, also speak of Gog and Magog as a final wave of destruction before divine judgment. Across centuries, historians like Al-Tabari and Ibn Kathir analyzed these texts, comparing them to the geographical and political realities of their times. They noted the similarities between scriptural descriptions and the hostile tribes of the far north, often linking the barrier to regions beyond the Caucasus. Even Christian theologians interpreted these verses as symbolic of a future global threat, one that human civilization will be powerless to resist without divine intervention. Whether one views these sources as literal prophecy or historical allegory, their alignment across different faiths is striking. Three major Abrahamic traditions, Islam, Christianity, and Judaism, all converge on the idea of a massive, world-altering event tied to Gog and Magog. That convergence alone should be enough to give pause to anyone dismissing it as mere myth. And so, as we study the present world with its rising conflicts, its dissolving borders, and its race toward a future that may strip us of our most powerful weapons, we have to ask ourselves, are we inching closer to the moment the barrier will fall? Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.